Welcome back to your daily AI news, everybody, where we work to demystify the latest advancements in artificial intelligence and explore how they're reshaping our world. This is episode 19. I can't believe it. The idea is for you guys to learn from us, learn from our mistakes and our achievements. Hopefully more our achievements than our mistakes, but either way is good. And in the process to have fun with us. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. I'm your host, Noah McDonough. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Today, we're actually going to go ahead and really we're kind of broken into two separate groups. The first half of the show is going to be really just a couple of headlines. And then the second half, we're going to dig in kind of hands-on. And I'm going to share some of my experiences, some of the gotchas, and then some of the tips that I've learned. And hopefully that helps you out in your endeavors here with AI. And if you have any questions, feel free to write into the chat, and I'll do my best to respond to those. If I don't get to them during the show, I'll get back to you. But you can always email us at yourdailyainews@gmail.com. And let's go ahead and get started here. So let's get in with the first piece of news here. This is kind of interesting. The wave of AI-generated music is hitting the courts. TechCrunch actually reports that Suno AI, one of the busiest, most music generation startups out there, is facing copyright lawsuits from major industry players. They're a text-to-music AI company, kind of like text-to-image, but for audio. And I haven't actually had a chance to really dig into this tool, but I plan to by the time we get to episode 20 next week, again at Wednesday at 6 p.m. Also related to that company, in India, in the Hindustan Times notes that the country's first AI-powered rock band just launched using Suno. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It could be Suno, it might be Suno, showcasing both the excitement and the risk of this technology. Artists argue that Suno is trained on their copyrighted work without permission. So supporters counter that it's simply the next Napster-like disruption in music. The stakes, well, there's billions in royalties and questions of whether AI is a tool for musicians or a replacement. Really why this matters is music has always been the canary in the coal mine for tech disruption. If lawsuits succeed here, it could set the precedent across AI-generated media, for video to art to code. My understanding is that there's actually a free version of Suno AI. And again, I haven't had a chance to dig into it. But they give you like enough credits, I think, to create like 15 minutes basically of sound and music. So I'll report back once I dig in. It's kind of amazing how much this dominated the news in AI. Let's go ahead and if any of you have experience with that, I'd love to hear from you, either through the chat right now or through email. And also the blog that we have for this, I'll get you the links, and I'll also put them in the show notes as well. Our next piece of news is Altman warns of an AI bubble. So it kind of feels a lot like the big internet sensation and the tech bubble that happened back in the day, maybe even more so. So even the most optimistic voices are urging caution. Fortune reports that Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, told a recent panel that AI investment hype may already be in bubble territory. While innovation is real, valuations and funding rounds are racing ahead of what's sustainable. And he's not alone in saying this. CNBC highlights that venture capital funding in AI has spiked 400% in just 18 months, with dozens of AI-powered startups chasing the same dollars. For Altman, the man building the rocket, to warn about overheating is significant. Why this matters: if an AI bubble pops, it won't just hurt investors. It could undermine public confidence in the tech itself, slowing adoption right as it's crossing into the mainstream. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on that as well. And it is notable, as he's the head of Open AI and ChatGPT, which most people have got some exposure to nowadays. The next one in the headlines, Wukong AI in space, not to be confused with Wu-Tang, although that would be cool. AI is no longer just earthbound. South China Morning Post reports that astronauts aboard China's, I'm going to butcher this, Tiangong space station tested Wukong AI as a mission planning assistant during spacewalk prep. The system is designed to analyze tasks, optimize astronaut workloads, and suggest real-time adjustments. State media describes Wukong as an early proof of concept, but the symbolism is clear. AI isn't just for office work. It's being trained for mission-critical, high-stakes environments. Why this matters: if AI continues, if AI can be trusted outside Earth's atmosphere, the case for using it in everything from hospitals to disaster zones only gets stronger. It's a glimpse of the frontier where AI shifts from assistant to partner. It's pretty interesting, and it really, just based on my own experience and then also what I've been following in the news, it doesn't surprise me at all. If I was an astronaut, I would have the thing right next to me. So, all right. And then let's move on to the next one. This is kind of where we're going to shift gears a little bit. I got through the news pretty fast there. This is a segment where we're going to shift away from the headlines and we're going to go ahead and talk about real world use cases. What we want to do here is kind of go beyond those headlines. This is where we kind of get personal. It's not just about reporting the news, it's about unpacking what it means and sharing the lessons that I've learned and any lessons that you guys share with us, and showing you the tools and systems that I actually use to make sense of AI in real time. Sometimes this means practical takeaways you can use right away, and sometimes it's the AI tip jar, is what we're calling it. That's prompt strategies and tricks you can experiment with on your own. Other times it's behind the scenes, and once in a while we'll run live experiments. You've actually seen that on our show multiple times, and I'll do a little bit of that today as well. And so this is a part of the show where we step out and kind of dive in. So specifically, let's move on to this guy here. I was reading an interesting article, so I put together some stuff here on sort of the methodology of using AI tools. Now, I'm a little bit biased in that I've been using ChatGPT 5 for quite some time. And so when I speak to this, that's going to be most of my experience. But I'd be curious to know from any of you, if you're using Gemini or other tools, if you're experiencing some of the similar benefits and hangups. But the idea is to kind of break the anatomy down here. And so let's go ahead and do that. Really, if you look at the screen that I've got up, and I sort of broke it down in bullets on the right as well. There's really roles, tasks, context, reasoning, and output. This is how the machine thinks. So the more you can hit on each of these points as you work with these tools, the faster you'll get the system to understand what you're trying to do and give you the best results. So there's an example on the left where it says, okay, the role is we want to act as an expert travel guide focused on recommending unique hikes within 2 hours of San Francisco, as an example. And so that gives the system that bit of information. It knows basically, you can see on the right, the who, right? And then we move down to task. And that's provide a checklist of planning steps and identify the top 3 medium length hikes. So if you look over on the right, the task is the what. And then we kind of shift down to context. Exclude extremely popular hikes and ensure each one of the selections offers a unique adventure. And the context is the why. And then the reasoning, prioritize accuracy and practically cross-checking names and details. And that's the how. And then the output format, that's sort of the shape of things and what they have for the out. Return the results as a properly formatted markdown table. So that's the deliverable that you're really asking whatever AI tool you're using. And then, you have some stop conditions there, which would be sort of the end of that. Now, in theory, this is great. And I can attest that it is the best way to sort of roll through with the tools. In practice, I abuse that all the time and get down all kinds of side channels. But there's a lot of fun to be had in that as well. So let's go ahead and take a look here at a real world example behind the scenes. So I've got this one set up. This is something that I've been working on my own Renegade Chronicles website. One of the biggest problems that I encounter with multiple shows is conveying to everybody what the shows are and when they are. And even despite constant reminders, basically my guerrilla marketing tactics, it always is a struggle. And so my thought process here was to have a dedicated page just for the broadcasts, which is a screen capture of what you're looking at here, and have a dial and an indicator that shows each one of those shows. And basically it's a countdown timer to when any one of those given shows is going to go on air, so that folks can be proactive. If they land on the site and they're curious about it, they can actually see everything in real time that's going on. So we developed what we're calling the Renegade Chronometers, and that's a mouthful. It's basically my attempt at a system that clearly and elegantly displays the showtime trajectory of each broadcast in real time. So hopefully you guys agree. And let's go ahead and dig in to what we've got. Actually, I'm going to escape out of this particular presentation and just pull that area of my website up. And we'll go over to my broadcast sections here on renegadechronicles.com. And you'll see, let's see if I can, let me scroll out here. There we go. That's a little better. So you can see the dials moving, and if any one of those dials hits on air, then the big symbol lights up as on air as well. Now, what's fascinating to me about this is I have never built a website in my life. And so this is my first site build, and I've never programmed anything really other than a microwave in my life. That's not exactly true, but it's not far from the truth. And so I wouldn't have really even attempted this had I not been working with ChatGPT as a co-pilot and getting suggestions from it like, hey, I'm using Wix as a platform for this website. It said, we this is a limitation in what's offered in the widgets that they have, but we could get into the code and we can start making the modifications ourselves. And I was scratching my head and I'm like, oh, okay. And it said, I can generate the HTML code for you. And you just pop it in. And, in a roundabout way, I think I followed the process that we showed in the previous slide. But, not as strategically as could have been the case. When I started building this out, it was long before I had stumbled on that process for methodically going through everything that's that's available. So this is still under construction, and you can see the idea. I don't know if you guys can see clear enough on the screen. Maybe if I scroll in here. Let's do this and scroll down. The idea is that you can see, so I have a radio show that's every Friday at 9 a.m. called Funky Friday. That you guys are more than welcome. I'd love to have you join. It actually, as the arms of each of these chronometers moves, there's a tracer line that also indicates how much time has elapsed. So it's 7 days between each show. And so what each of these chronometers does is indicate a percentage of time leading up to the on-air portion of that show. And then I'll have this set up so that if you click on any of these dials, it'll take you directly to that show. They're basically checkpoints for being able to quickly get in and ideally just be really user friendly and very clear as to what's going on. In my usage, there's one of the biggest challenges with AI. Let me go ahead and get back over to my slideshow here. Oops. Is when you start dealing with code, it doesn't nail it right off the bat. There are a lot of iterations. And I mean, I've spent the better part of last week on this particular page on just this mission, which I knew it was going to be complex going in, but I had no real idea of all the nuts and bolts and ins and outs that are involved with it. And so if you've messed around with AI tools, a lot of folks use the tools specifically just to ask and answer questions, but you can use them in more of a project management type of development fashion. And so if I click here, what you're seeing in the white box is really a project where you can see at the top with the folder, that's the Renegade Chronicles website. And then underneath that, you see a bunch of individual chats. Bullet timer 3 setup, bullet timer continuation, and another continuation. And you might be wondering, well, why don't you just keep all that in the same chat? I mean, that would be really nice, right? What happens, though, is that the chats over time get bloated, and they really start to slow down. And in some cases, I've actually bumped into situations where the AI police have said, hey, you've asked the same question too many times in a row, and it forces you to actually start a different chat. And you can basically usually move all the context over. These tools are pretty sharp. They'll remember a lot of things. But after a while, when they slow down and you create a brand new session, there are pieces of the conversation that it doesn't remember. And so it can feel like sometimes you're working with somebody that has partial amnesia. And you're like, man, ChatGPT, we already covered this. Why am I having to reiterate all this stuff with you? And so the real tip or the trick is to treat each conversation like a project notebook, not a never-ending stream. When it starts getting heavy or bloated, you don't want to throw the old one away. You want to save its key context and feed it back in to the new chat. I would imagine that this is an area in general when they talk about areas of improvement for AI tools. I would imagine that this is something that is always, one of the major things that they're working on. But the way to think of it is when you create a new chat within your project, think of it as briefing a new team member, short, sharp, and focused on what matters most. And so the takeaway for the audience here is don't fear restarting. It often improves speed and clarity. That's one. 2 is save key context, your briefing notes, so you can spin up fast. Keep it lean. AI works best with a clean runway, not a bloated thread. And set your safety hooks, just like, when you're mountain climbing. if you've got code that you've been working on with AI that's progressed, copy and paste that code into a text editor with a version number. That way, so in my case, in building this, we must have regenerated the code for this page, I'd say 1,000 times, if not more, in the troubleshooting and expanding process. You kind of do it in steps. I just want to make this armature spin around 360 degrees. You start there at the little stuff, and then you say, okay, when it gets to the top, I want the on-air indicator to pop on. Okay, I want to have digits down at the bottom that give, a digital readout of how much time is left. You build all these things, and then you replicate them. So I started with the Renegade Chronicles podcast timer, and then I went ahead and added this one, Your Daily AI News, and then I added the Funky Friday one. Yeah, just kind of emulating bits of code that were the same and then just changing the names. But if you find something that's like semi-successful, hang on to that, save it to your text editor, and continue to work with AI on advancing it. And because sometimes you'll start a new chat thread and it'll forget some of the things in that code. And if you're like me, I really can't read the code myself, so I'm lost when it gets stuck. But if I can go back to my notes and copy and paste the code that did work, I can say, hey, this is what we were using before and everything was working peachy. It'll analyze and compare the code that it had just generated with what you just gave it back, and it'll find where the mistakes are and then rebuild the code, and you can pop it back in. It's actually a really, really, for me, it's revolutionary. It's a fascinating process all by itself to watch. And it's daunting, if you're not a coder, it really is a different language. But ChatGPT, I asked it, I said, you're a human language tool, large language tool. How are you with other types of languages like computer languages? And it said, I'm pretty good at HTML and Python and C++. So it's good. And it's amazing to watch it crank this stuff out and the speed that it processes it. It's really something else. So if you get a chance, go ahead and dig in and check out my website and let me know what you think. Give me feedback. It makes sense to me, of course, because I built it, but it might not make much sense to you guys. And if you give me that feedback, then I can improve the page. Okay. Let's see. What else do I have here to share with you guys? Actually, boy, I flew through that. We're almost 30 minutes in. That's actually pretty much it for episode 18. Running this one solo today. So thanks so much for joining us and being part of the conversation. If you've got any questions or feedback, drop them into the chat window here. I'll hang around for a few minutes. Don't forget to, you can email us at yourdailyainews@gmail.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get indicators when we come online. We're always Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. You can turn on the alerts by clicking on the bell. There's a lot of little functions in YouTube that I never even made sense of. I got a response here from a listener. Hey, Jay. That's great. Jay, you got any questions for me? You can also visit us at renegadechronicles.com. And there's an ability, actually, if you go to, this is me being cheeky, instead of just events, I call it Ren Events. That's got an area where you can RSVP to any of the programs. And when you do that, you'll get an indicator, a reminder of the show coming up. And it also gives you details for the show. And every one of these shows has a complimentary blog that goes with it that I build before the show that kind of has the layout of what we're going to talk about. And then I also augment that after the show with comments that I get or things that I think about, or maybe I forgot to show something. But I've gotten pretty good responses from those. And so, yeah, that's it. Let's see, Jay will have more questions once I get more of a clue. I'm learning a ton right now. Yeah, this is cool. I'm really stoked about this show. It doesn't have the traction yet that the radio show that I have is, and that's what I started with. But I see a lot of the same mechanisms and processes working for this in terms of getting the word out there. And if you could share that with folks, that'd be great. The idea is not to waste your time, to be concise and really kind of show things that we discover. We're super excited about the technology. And I think, a lot of people are really afraid of the tools, and that's human nature, I guess. But in terms of your usage, I guess there's always things with personal data, and I respect that. I'm probably more cavalier than most folks. I don't know that there's that much out there on me that could be used, but maybe I'll be proven to be a fool on that one. It wouldn't be the first time. But yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff happening right now. And like I said, I'm really excited to check out the new text to audio tools, because I'm spending so much time on the audio side now and seeing what that's about. And we're also concerned about how things play out. Jay said, we're doing it, we're learning, we're grinding, and we're going to keep going. And I'm going to drag all you with me in a good way. So thanks so much for your time, guys. I look forward. I can't believe we're going to have episode 20 coming up next Wednesday. So we'll get some real good stuff for you there. And I'm sure there's going to be, as always, just a ton of news headlines. It's getting to the point where it's hard to even make a choice in what to select and what to talk about. So that's awesome. Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.